Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So I want to call the meeting to order. It is now 6:35. My apologies for the snafu to everybody. The meeting got set up as Zoom only. Most of us thought we're on autopilot and went to Prescott Building. I apologize. We'll try and make sure um, this doesn't happen again. I'll double check this kind of thing going forward. Okay, let's do a quick roll call. Heidi, can you do a roll call of who we've got? Well, do a roll call of everybody and see who we've got here. Okay.
Sure. Susan,
Here.
Roy,
Here.
Dick,
Yeah,
Sheila,
Not yet.
Debbie, me, here.
Okay. We have 4 people. That is one person over our new quorum requirement. I talked to Kate about what we need for a quorum. We need 3, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but we have 4. We're well within our quorum set of requirements. Let's talk now. The next item in the agenda is election of a new clerk. With Denise's resignation, we need a new clerk. Heidi has graciously agreed to accept the nomination. Yes, and we do thank you, and you do a great job on minutes, ma'am. Okay.
thank you, Heidi.
So with that, I would entertain a motion to nominate Heidi Leclerc for the new clerk of the Tax Fairness Committee.
I nominate Heidi Leclerc for the position of clerk.
Seconded.
Second? Okay, thank you, Dick. Is there discussion? Hearing none. Heidi, can you call the roll then again?
Yep. Susan,
Yes.
Roy,
Yes.
Dick.
Yes,
Okay, that's good enough, right? Can I vote for myself?
you're allowed.
You're allowed to.
Abstain if you're modest. That's all.
I'll just vote for myself.
Okay, would you just note, because we have to report people who are absent at the moment, Deborah and Sheila are not on the phone call, so just mark them as absent for this vote. But we
Yep.
we have a majority there. Quick comment here now. I talked with Kate, given we're down from 7 to 6, to clarify what are our requirements for a quorum and what can we do, not do with that quorum, etc. And what she informs me of, she went back and checked a whole bunch of documents, believe it or not. It's not as simple as just looking up 1 or 2 minor things. But anyhow, our requirement as a quorum is now 3 people. But in order to pass anything, pass a motion, we have to have 4 votes, because 4 is a majority. It puts us in an interesting conundrum. There is a funny catch-22, if you can take a quick laugh for a quick moment. With 3 people, we could start a meeting and have a quorum. However, we could not vote to adjourn, all right, because we don't have a majority. I pondered that and realized that the chair could declare a recess. So we wouldn't have to meet forever, folks. So we've taken care of that little crazy quirk. And relative to recruiting an additional Tax Fairness Committee member, I'm in discussions with Mandy Cannon right now. She has checked some things. It appears that Denise was listed and in the position of the Friends of Seniors rep to the Tax Fairness Committee, and we would need to get a replacement from the Friends of Seniors. So I'm in discussions with her about how to do that and to get someone on the committee there. So that's what's going on in that area. Any questions on that?
Is anyone else on the committee currently a friend in Friends of Seniors?
Yes, we have 2 people on the committee who are Friends of Seniors. Both Susan and Sheila are both Friends of Seniors. Hang on 1 second. Deborah just came on. Hang on 1 second. Deborah, can you hear us? She's connecting. Hang on. Deborah, can you hear us? Deborah, could you unmute yourself and respond if you can hear us? Deborah, can you hear me? Deborah, can you hear me? And hang on, someone else is trying to get in. Can someone send a text to Deborah and ask her to unmute herself? And Sheila, is that you at 791 iPad? Hang on, I'm sending a text to Debbie.
I'm muted.
Ah,
Okay, great. All right. So
Unmute.
you're on.
and I'm sorry, is that
Sheila.
Sheila? Okay. Heidi, would you just note that Sheila joined us at, I have 7:43. Okay. And Deborah,
642.
7:42.
642.
You're correct. Thank you. And if we can get Deborah to let us know that she can hear us. Hang on, I'm trying to get a text to her. Come on.
Okay. And then we'd all be on. Oh,
Right. All right, I just sent her a text. All right, I'm going to do a quick recap to bring Sheila and Deborah, who I hope can hear us, up to speed, and then we'll move on. We did a call to order. We had 4 people here. We did an election of a new clerk, and Heidi has graciously accepted the nomination as the clerk and will be serving in that role. Going forward, now that we have 6 members right now, we have a quorum of 3 and a majority of 4, and it means that task teams can only be 2. We can't have task teams of 3 anymore. They have to be only 2 until we get a 7th member. We're looking into an additional member right now that appears to be need to come from the Friends of Seniors.
Is it required that we have 2 from Friends of Seniors?
No, it's not required. No. The requirement is that we have 1 designated as the representative from Friends of Seniors. Okay. Now, I am in discussion with Mandy about how to get a designated representative from the Friends of Seniors. We already have 2 people on the committee, namely Susan and Sheila, who are friends, who are members of the Friends of Seniors. They're board members. That designation could easily be moved if that's what the Friends of Seniors agrees to. I'm talking to Mandy about how do we determine who the Friends of Seniors wants as their rep. I believe that the Friends of Seniors are going to have to make a decision in terms of who their rep is. So I'll let you know when we get clarification on how that will be done.
So where can the other rep come from? And anywhere?
No, the other rep would have to be the representative of the Friends of Seniors. I presume someone on the committee would be my thought, Susan, but
That'd still be 6 members, wouldn't it? So
No, there'd be 7
you're
of us.
asking for 3 members to come from the Friends of the?
No, we're not okay. We only need 1 designated member from the Friends of Seniors. Currently, Susan and Sheila are designated as members at large, as are Heidi and I. So those are the 4 members at large we have. We need a designated member from the Friends of Seniors, which we do not have at the moment, and the Friends of Seniors will have to tell us who that's going to be. Okay, and approved by the select board, I presume. So stay tuned, more information when we work that
So
out.
you're saying we'll wind up with 3 members from the Friends of the Seniors?
We could, or the Friends of Seniors might choose either Sheila or Susan as their representative, in which case we would designate them that way, and then we would go find a general member.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, so we have a resolution anyhow. We have a way to resolve.
We have a way to get to a resolution. I'm working with Mandy on that. The details to follow in terms of what it got resolved to. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, there's Sheila. Deborah says to me, hang on one second. My iPad will not unmute. She says she can hear us. Maybe what I can do is put her on my phone and she can talk to us. That might work.
You can also phone in just as easily because you can do one tap mobile and get audio on her phone, and that would work too.
Okay. I'm
I
going to ask
presume
you.
she heard me.
Hang on one second.
Yeah, it'd be easier for her to hear it that way than through your phone, through your speaker, you know.
Yes, I understand. But I'd like her, there are several things that she's tracked down for some information. I'd like her to be able to speak to us. Let's proceed forward. All right. And I'll see what she says and how we work that out. Okay. All right. So the goals for today's meeting are to wrap up and tie off the work on SME, just put a little bow around the package. Okay. Then we're going to start talking about tax fairness. All right. So in terms of wrapping up the SME discussion, let's start with your comments and input about the presentation and the interaction and the discussions with the select board. We might start, and just to have some orderly process here, I'll start with the presentation that was done of what we were presenting to them. What were your comments in terms of what went well, what could have been done better? All right, and then we'll get into your thoughts in terms of comments, interaction that we had there, etc. So let's start with the presentation. What went well, what didn't go so well? We'll start with what went well first.
You got to unmute, Sheila.
Very thorough, interesting, on the spot, professionally done. And yeah, that's what I really liked about it. And I mean, it gave a lot of information that could be thought about.
Okay, yep.
I thought it was done well.
Any other comments? Any other additions to what she said, or
Heidi, you have to unmute.
It's hard to remember because I have typing for notes. And so I'm not looking at the screen. I thought it was done very well. I agree that it was a well thought out and very thorough presentation. What could have gone better? Less interruptions.
Mm-hmm. And there was a little bit of repetition of some of the same things said, but not much. But there was some. That's all. I mean,
And
I wish it would have been more positively received, but
I like that we were given a lot of time to present it. They didn't rush us, or I didn't feel like it was being rushed. There might have been interruptions, but that they were trying to be thorough, and I appreciated that they were allowing us to do that, because then people can go back and look at the video, even if they don't look, thumb through the presentation, they have that to fall back on to learn more. So we can always direct people to that, and I appreciated that.
Okay, hold on 1 second. It looks like Deborah is now called in. Let me just see if she can speak to us. Deborah, can you unmute your phone and speak to us so we can hear you? Okay, we'll continue on. Deborah, if you can, at any point, unmute your iPhone or something, just go ahead and jump in, and we'd just like to know that you can both hear us and make comments. Okay. All right, so what could have gone better? There was some repetition, okay? The interruptions. All right, and maybe I can ask for, let me get through the majority of the presentation, or only ask clarifying questions, and then we'll take discussion at the end. Can do that next time. Okay. More positively received. Well, I'm not sure what we can do about that. Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah. Any other comments in terms of what could have been done better? And then we'll talk about your thoughts on the discussion and comments from the select board.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very stressful to stand up there. So I just want to give you kudos for pulling it all together and making the slides, and trying to present it in a very professional way. So
Yes.
Well,
and I think Deborah, it's hard on a phone when you're zooming to actually see where the mute button is. I have to say, because I tried to do that in the car, just coming here, and I don't know whether you can click on yourself and then look on the bottom. It might be where you can unmute, because one of the things that, like you mentioned in here, is Steve's comment about talking about how that if we postpone SME discussions, that it might take 3 or 4 years for this to be implemented. And that was not the impression that we got. And we were encouraged by Deborah's comments that, very likely the last time was in about 8 months, something was proposed. So that is the reason that we didn't, we just said, hold off, let's wait. So I don't know, Deborah, can you find a way to unmute so that you could talk about that? Because this relates to that, to the select board's comment that it was going to be 2 or 3 years out, and that we should start the process now. Yeah.
yeah, evidently. Let me try and just call her, all right, directly, and see if we can do something there. My phone won't let me unmute either. Not sure if I should go out and then come back into the meeting. Let me try and just straight up call her, okay?
All right.
Hang on 1 second. Hang on.
Isn't there a way that the board can unmute everybody? Susan, isn't there something? Because I know they can mute everybody.
Hold on 1 second, folks.
Yeah, but I think her
you
issue
hear me?
was that it's her computer doesn't have, her computer's the problem. So
or my phone won't let me unmute. So I don't know if it's on my side or if it's an issue with me when I went into the meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me well here?
Matter of fact, when you were saying, Deb, unmute, I was saying I can't. It won't let me, but
yeah. So If you
Okay.
put the phone a little closer, we could all hear her, and I think it would be, you know.
Yes, right.
near your-
Deborah, how about if you stay on your phone? All right, and I'll put you as close as I can here.
All right.
Deborah, say hello to everybody so we can see how they can hear you.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Oh, God.
can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, my thanks to all of you for, persevering and overcoming here tonight. All right. I will keep this as close as I can here. I even have an iPhone holder. Okay. All right, let us continue on then. So, all right, we were just discussing the presentation of last week,
Right.
Debbie, and the comment was one of the things in terms of we had talked about what went well, what could have been improved or gone better. All right, if you want to add any comments there.
No, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. And the comments on the discussion, we were just talking about Steve's comments that we shouldn't delay because his observation is that the legislature would not respond positively or quickly to the governor's proposal, and that it would amount to an even longer delay. Now, you had some input that told us you thought it would be quicker than that, and it might be toward the end of this legislative session / in the summer, we would hear something. Is that still your best information?
Okay. I don't want to disagree with the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, but I'm going to. The reason why I stated at a meeting, months ago about this, when it came out, was out of back of history. When Governor Weld was in, he did a package like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the money articles and the budget was discussed. But this thing, there's no real discussion. It's not like the state's coming up with any money. It's to benefit the towns to help seniors. What legislative body or person is going to sit there and hold this up? So with my years of being in the assessors, seeing what's come in, I totally disagree. I would prefer as myself that we sit back and let the process work through the state. One reason is there'll be a clearer requirement standards instead of us trying to come up with something.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is 99% of these exemptions that come down the pike, they all come out of the overlay. If we do it, then it's up in the air where it's coming from. If we wait for the state, then we have a better idea as to where the money's going to come from, which probably will be the overlay. So
Okay. Thank you, Deborah.
and just one more thing.
Sure.
I'm sorry. I was talking to Bobby Joe today or this morning, and Mass Assessors Association is very involved with this.
I'm sorry, which association was this?
The Mass Assessors Association.
Thank you.
Which is a large organization. And they keep track of anything coming down the pipe from the state.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to have a Zoom meeting. I want to say it was this afternoon to go over, things about it, what they think's going to happen. I can keep track with Bobby Joe as to what was said, and just keep you guys posted.
Okay, and I think that would be very helpful for us, Deborah.
Okay.
I think, let me just check by nod of heads or, I don't know that we have to take a formal vote on this, but basically what we stated at the select board was that we were going to wait to get more clarity from the state. And that was the position we took. Is everyone still in agreement based on what Deborah's saying? I think that's still very much the right thing to do. I think that should still be our position. Is there anyone who thinks we should change that? Okay, hearing none, seeing no one's hand up. That's going to be, we're going to continue to monitor this. Debbie, if you can keep us posted, I think that's the right thing to do. So we will continue on that mode.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
So good.
Are we
Any other
willing,
comments? I'm
are
sorry.
we willing to ask if anyone else has a proposal?
For which, Dick, clarify?
For tax fairness for entirely, not just for seniors, but I get a feeling there might be something else going on somewhere.
Okay, two things. If you're going to talk about general tax fairness, not the SME discussion, which is what we're talking about right now, Dick, we're kind of tying that one up. I would ask that you hold that until the second part of the meeting. We'll get there in a couple minutes, all right?
Sure.
Relative to the SME discussion, you may recall that there were some comments made by Steve and Kate that they were working on something in this space, and she was talking to the Department of Revenue and a few other general comments like this. And my response was, we would be interested to hear your comments and proposal. Okay. Subsequent to the meeting, because I'm not sure what they're talking about, what they're working on, but it seems in this area relative to SME, I had communication with Kate. Do you folks hear an echo?
Yes.
Hang on one second. Let me try muting this. Debbie, if you want to say something, can you send somebody a text? All right, and we'll get you in.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
Okay, I think we've gotten rid of the echo pretty much. Okay, it's much better.
Yeah.
Debbie,
Yep.
can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. I just moved the phone a little bit, so this will help hopefully. So after the meeting, I sent an email to Kate asking to follow up on that comment, and a little bit more on, there was another comment about if there was one person in Lancaster who had a need that, that was enough and that should be addressed. Okay, the select board would find the money. I think you may recall was stated there. Kate got back to me and responded that she was flat out trying to get the budget closed, as well as preparing to leave her vacation, which she did, I think, this morning sometime. And she apologized, but she could not meet with me. The second aspect she said was that relative to the proposal that she and Steve are working on, it is a discussion between the two of them. She did not know what she could talk about with anyone else. And she just left it at that. I will follow up when she gets back to find out more information about that. But at this point in time, that's all the additional information I have on that. I will follow up with her as the best I can say. Any comments or questions about that?
You've covered everything I was questioning.
Okay. All right. So Heidi, would you note that I have an action item to follow up with Kate on Kate/Steve's SME proposal discussion. I'll put it that way. I'm not sure what it is yet. Okay. All right. So that's that aspect. Let me just spend one moment because there was some comments made afterwards in this unusual discussion we had about if there was, well, how many people does it, does a program have to help before it makes sense? And Steve said something about even though it only helps one person, we should do that. The select board would find the money. We should make the proposal, that kind of thing. Any comments on that line of reasoning or that thinking? Go ahead, Sheila.
Yeah, that does not strike me as tax fairness.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I don't agree with it. Only because it's just not the practical way the world works. I think that when you're in a public forum, like a meeting like that, it's very difficult to disagree when someone says that. You sound unkind. It's hard, but I know a business can't operate that way. They'd go under, I just don't agree with it.
Okay.
Well, I agree with you because I don't think there's any way that anyone should say the town will do something for one person that they wouldn't do for other people.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it's an extremely peculiar position, maybe it needs a warrant article or something before you do it, but that's not worthy of a warrant article.
No.
Mhm.
There's other ways to help a single person without
Yes.
doing all this.
Right. What
Ridiculous.
struck me in thinking about it afterwards is, first of all, we've been asked to work on tax fairness and SME. This feels like what is called today transitional assistance programs, or what used to be called years ago welfare, where you help a person, a family that has specific needs to meet their daily living expenses. I think that this one person need thing has to be in that category. We were asked to work on tax policy related issues, these two, of SME and fairness. We would refer all of these to the select board. The select board can address them, but it's not a tax fairness committee issue, from my point of view. I seem to see some general agreement on this. Are we pretty much agreed that the one person need issue is not a tax policy or a tax fairness committee issue, should be handled more transitional assistance, welfare, et cetera? Does that make sense? Are we all in agreement on that?
Yes, and
Yes.
it also, well, I'm going to hold that thought for a minute.
Okay.
Maybe we can say whether anybody disagrees with that. Maybe that would be
Sure.
easier.
Okay.
Well-
Is there anyone who disagrees with that?
Well, let me first say, before we go to that, because I think it's a good point, we need to know how many people might
Yes.
need this help. And
Yes.
that's what we're trying to determine initially with, let's say, circuit breaker. So let's get ourselves some information before we start making decisions, is my point. Or some indicated information.
Okay.
There are other programs out there that could help one individual. I mean, Sheila and I being on this Friends of Seniors, there are things that we have helped with, dumpsters or, whatever to help an individual senior in need. And then also the town has that that elderly / disabled tax fund that has 7 or 8 grand in it.
7,000.
Yeah, that's another pathway that's not even being utilized. There's no committee, there's no people around it.
Yeah. Why
There's
are we
money
starting-
there where somebody donated, they can check off a dollar amount and that goes into a fund that can help like a per case basis. But I don't even know, it's not even clear to me like how that was even structured. It was done in 1999 and like basically hasn't even been like pulled up. So there's other ways that the town could do something for one individual, that a policy that you know, that where everyone would be taxed to help one individual may not make the most sense, you know.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, so I just think that we have other ways to support like one individual, but that the policy should be something where it helps a higher percentage of people. Otherwise, why go through all the work and the, you know, and have funds like, for instance, in an overlay or, you know, what have you, that would be set aside specifically for that, for one person, you know. It's
Well,
not.
in some way, in my mind, this is tax fairness and tax fairness only. It is not welfare in any way. I know it contributes to the cost. Don't get me wrong. However, we must look at it without a sense of helping out the destitute. I hate that word, but this is for everybody in the town, and we must not lose track of that. That when we do something for one person, never mind the one or 50 people, it affects the other 8,000 who are paying. So it's a fairness. We need that word to be prime.
Right. All right. And right, I totally agree with you, Dick. And
Yep.
like I said, and some other people have said, I think it's a transitional assistance policy or program issue. It's not a tax fairness issue, and not a tax fairness policy issue. All right. So,
MOC is an outstanding organization. Are you familiar with that group too?
I'm sorry, what was that again, Dick?
MOC.
Mark?
They give help. They give fuel, water, all kinds of help.
Mhm.
And I think Kelly's working very closely with them too.
Right. Okay. All right. So any other comments relative to this issue, relative to the one person issue? It sounds like we're all agreed. I did not hear any disagreement. If there is, please say so. But basically, we do not feel it's part of our mission and charter relative to tax policy to deal with what's more an individual help, transitional assistance policy type of thing. Okay. If not, then moving along here, in terms of items to put in our suspense list to come back to later on, the one person problem, we will put that on a list. My thought is we will kind of, from Heidi's notes, we'll put together a brief one pager that is our position on it. I don't know if we want to bring it up at the next meeting. We will wait until they ask us about it, is my thought. Okay. The next thing is the issue relative to the program they're working on. You've heard I've taken the action to follow up on that. I'll report on that when I have more information. Is there anything else we should put on a suspense list from the SME presentation from our 3-month report?
Could we address the fact that you showed the chart that had the different towns that they have the SME already.
Mhm.
And you said how you pointed out Lancaster and said, see, we're down there where, you know, this town has, you know, 250, 200% larger taxes, or you put it into perspective, and there wasn't any comment of like, well, we are not with these. I mean, we don't belong with those towns. We're not in their league, sort of.
Mhm.
But I didn't notice that anyone thought that saw the chart, and I didn't understand why, I guess.
Okay, do you think we should go back to that at some point and make that point clearly? Is that what you're suggesting, Sheila? I'm trying to. Okay.
Of I don't know if it's just me. I don't know about you guys, but it just didn't seem like we were in that league. And then somebody said, well, we might be in a few years, but then Concord and all those are going to go up too. I mean, everything's relative, you know.
Mhm.
You're going to pay a lot of taxes no matter where you go. It's
Yeah.
just,
Okay, any other comments on that? Otherwise, I'll take it as something maybe we go back to in our next presentation and just say, oh, we wanted to comment on this. Okay.
yeah, here's the
we
towns
are
that have
different.
the SME. Here's
Yes,
what
right.
they look like.
Actually, I think it's probably going to address itself with the new policy that Maura Healey's going to come out with. In other words, they're going to, the idea that these were these 8 towns that had these policies, and our whole mission was like, okay, we're going to look at these 8 policies and like recreate, sort of the best one or the mix of the one. And that's where we were putting that chart together to kind of explain that, like, well, those towns are different than our town, in terms of that ranking. But if the new SME policies come out, that might be the answer to our questions. Like, in other words, like if they say, well, this, whatever the rules, whatever they're going to propose,
We may not
kind of,
qualify.
it might not even be an issue, because whatever they're going to come up with is it's going to offer towns the option of just adopting one of those, and then our town would just choose which one we wanted to adopt. So I think it's kind of gonna be, your point is taken, like it kind of blew over their,
Yeah, I didn't see, like, wow, really? That's us down there? Oh, our town doesn't look like the graphs of the other towns. It doesn't look like the.
And it might have been a bigger deal if, if we needed to come up with a policy or put something on the warrant or something like that. But I think because we're going to wait, we don't need to bring it up at the next meeting, is my feeling, because it'll play out by whatever Maura Healey's plan's going to be.
Okay, so I hear the suggestion, which is kind of just to let it sit and we'll wait and see what the governor has to say. Okay. All right. Let me see. All right. One thing I noticed just in looking at these minutes, for some reason, I had on previous versions of this, and I don't know what happened, but I had on a version of this agenda to review the minutes from 2/1/24. It's not on this agenda.
I can't modify events for you on Apple Watch.
Hang on a second. Let me get rid of my Apple Watch here.
That's all right. It doesn't have to be resolved tonight. You put it on the next agenda. You got
Okay.
3 months to do it.
Yeah, all right. We'll put it on the next agenda. I don't know what happened to it. I'll have to go back and double check. All right. So any last comments on the presentation, our report last month, or last week, as a matter of fact? If not, then we're moving on to the following sets of things. This is the report from the working group that Susan's heading on the cooperation with LCC, HHS, Council on Aging, and the Tax Fairness Committee relative to getting seniors connected up with people who can do their taxes for them. So Susan, could you give people a quick update on that, please?
A lot of it was presented to the Board of Selectmen already. Some of the things that we worked with them on. Nikki Canis is the COA director, and working with Kelly, and then Roy and I. Basically, there was like about 6 action items that we kind of came up with to try to get the word out and really work on circuit breaker, because that became the focus of what we thought was the highest priority, and in terms of the biggest bang for the buck, $25.90, per person per year, and then maybe multiple years looking back. So basically, you guys are probably already seeing, we've got the Kelly got the signs up on either end of town, the lighted signs saying, come talk to us about your taxes. There was we got the 3-pager from Roy that Kelly is going to present to Bigelow Gardens and the administration for distribution to residents, because not all of them have a computer or watch any of the meetings and don't have access to that. So we wanted to get that word out. So that will be something. Some of you, and Roy forwarded, there was an article in the Crier talking about it, and what our program does.
It
And
was in
then
the item.
And then Kelly's trying to present, to do a presentation with DOR so that it would be like a lunch and learn, at the community center to just like have people come in and have questions. And then she did send out an email blast that was sent. And then next, going forward next year, because she's submitted funding for doing mailers. And so we talked about the idea of doing a mailer when she has that funding. It won't start until July, but it would help the program for next year getting the word out. So, and then she's going to put it into the crier for next month to give a little blurb. And I guess she and Roy are going to sort of design something that can be inserted in there to maybe be visual to say, contact your people. Roy did make a presentation to the Council on Aging, and actually with Kendra's suggestion, was also to put it at the post office boxes, like at the post office locations, to like maybe have a little flyer that would just sort of prompt people, talk to your tax person, you might be able to be entitled to some benefits. So I'm working on like creating a flyer. So thank you, Kendra, for having brought that up at our COA meeting, because that was a good idea, because how do you get to these people at Bigelow, and how do you get to seniors that don't have a computer or that kind of thing? So that's kind of what we have worked on to try to, encourage people to apply. And then Kelly is basically telling the ARP people down in Clinton and other locations that, you can get your taxes done for free there and include the circuit breaker. So those are the items that we kind of worked on to get the word out and summarize it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any figures yet as to how many people have responded?
Kelly had said that for the lighted sign, only one person had come in specific to taxes, but that, the slots in town, people they were contacting for, getting their taxes with ARP. So.
Could you say that one more time? I didn't quite hear something.
Yeah, so the taxes, in terms of a specific phone call to Kelly, she knows of the lighted sign only grabbing one person that called specifically about the taxes. So so far, but it's still early on. We only made the presentation last week. The lighted sign only got started, so she's going to track that, just like they did with the oil. Like when she had, do you need help with your oil bill, that kind of stuff, then she'll track that and be able to give us some numbers, over time.
What is happening with the 181 that they have room for, and do we have enough people on there, or are we being turned down already?
Do you want me to address that?
Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
So what, when we had our presentation with Kelly, she said that that they had 181 slots that were already filled at the Council on Aging in Clinton, because it's a joint effort.
Right.
Like they're not having it in two different locations, they're putting it in one location. So she was referring people down there, and I guess it was misunderstood by Roy and I that they would be adding additional spots as needed. So that's why we didn't come forward and ask for any money when we the next Monday went to the select board, because we were under the impression that they would just open up as needed. And then it was only this morning, I think yesterday, I emailed you guys, just saying that no, the 181 spots is all there is, and they're already full. So now we're looking at, Kelly is sending this out to other locations, and we've got a list, like, the Stowe Senior Center, the Air Senior Center, the Leominster Senior Center, and Leominster Public Library are other locations, different times and dates. And Kelly's working with those other sites to see.
Is she asking for how many openings they have, or asking for specific appointments for people?
I don't know, because mostly what she was is not booking the appointment. She was just referring people and saying, go to this location, go to
So-
Clinton is what we started with,
Mhm.
because that's the joint one. And, and contact Deb Goodell, to make your appointment. And that's when we found out, oh,
I'm
it's
trying
already,
so hard to get some information on who needs what, and
right,
that,
Right.
because that's going to lead us down more paths. And we don't
Mhm.
seem to we can't go by names, we can't go by age, we can't go by sex, obviously. But I would sure like to have a number that 20 people need us or 2 people need us. I don't know that answer.
and
Right.
we don't know either.
Right. And Dick, we tried some ways to try and get that number, or to set up systems to get that number.
It's
People
a
were reluctant.
violation of everyone's rights, I guess, huh?
Yes, right. People were reluctant to do anything to collect some of that information. So that's kind of where we are. We don't really have a good way to know right now.
I
Kelly,
wonder if after it's over, we'll have a way of knowing.
I don't know. I don't know. Kelly is doing everything she can to keep track of people who request and are referred here. She does
Susan,
a
is
good
there
job
any
with that. We'll
way,
just see how that goes.
Susan, is there any way of us breaking away from Clinton and getting our own people next year? I'm not talking about this year.
Absolutely. I think that was in question. I mean, we had separated out, in years past. I know I physically went to Lancaster and did it there. Sheila, I think you helped even, you were doing the paper clipping or something, you mentioned,
Oh, that was in West Boylston, right?
Oh,
For the
okay.
AARP. Yep.
Right. So we could look at it and say, next year, how can we generate this? Because obviously all these other Stowe, Air, but perhaps we felt like that maybe Lancaster and Clinton were good enough to jointly do it and
Right.
consolidate the workers. Because we were told that there are 6 people specifically that are doing this. And that's why we thought, oh, they'll just expand their hours. If that's what we were told, they'll just expand their hours as needed for when there's a need. But apparently they're saying there's no wait list, there's no additional people at the Clinton location. So that's why Kelly's looking at other locations. So yes, we should put that on the list for next year to say, let's see if we can get our own, specifically in Lancaster, but I don't, because you're allowed to go to any town, that doesn't preclude that
Right.
it's going to be only Lancaster residents. It's not like that's a rule. So,
Right. You may recall that in the February 1st meeting, that presentation, which we all agreed to, had a request for, and I have to go back and double check the number. It was either $5,000 or $10,000 to help. And then based on the meeting on Friday the 2nd that we had with Kelly and Nikki, I took that out of the request. So we didn't request that. We may come back, depending on how Kelly is able to find slots for people in other towns, how that goes. If she gets to the point where she needs some money to meet the needs of Lancaster tax filers to help them file their taxes, I think we would come back to that proposal and bring
Present it to the finance committee. We'll move it along if you need it. There is no reason why. I mean, in fact, Susan, I have another suggestion. I don't know if it helps in any way or not, but somehow if we get inundated, and it's obvious we're not, looks like we're only going to get people who have not filed their tax or didn't plan to file a tax account, because all the other people are filing their taxes or don't care. So I was wondering if we went to, say, H&R Block and said, look, we'll guide these people to you. You don't need to advertise. And the only thing we ask for is that they don't have to pay for your service till after their check arrives back to them. Because, see, there could be up to 4 years worth of taxes they have to do. The 1 year tax wouldn't be too bad. That's $88, but 4 times $88 adds up to quite a bit in being able to just use it, daily. My point is, I don't know what else we can do to help these people other than to get them informed and get them to a tax person, because once they do it this year, they will do it next year and the
Right,
year
agreed.
after.
Right,
And that's what we really want, is to build a
Sure.
program that way.
right. In general, if we can get people working with a professional to file their taxes, the professional should be filing for circuit breaker automatically.
Precisely.
Okay,
But
right.
it's
Once we get them
amazing how many
filing-
people don't.
Right, right.
Amazing.
I think a revelation to me at our last COA meeting was there was one person there from Bigelow Gardens who asked, could this apply to us? And I said, yes, it can apply to renters. And they asked for the information that I presented. Kelly's getting it to the administrator there, as Susan mentioned. It may be that Bigelow Gardens might be a significant pocket of seniors who do not file taxes. And it could be an area that could maybe be a significant amount of help. To be determined. We'll see what information Kelly can obtain as she goes along.
The problem with that was their rent is so low compared to their income of Social
Yes.
Security.
And it's designed to be a certain percentage of their income
Right.
by the state. So
You don't think it's going to apply? Is that
I
what you-
don't think it's going to fly, but I don't know for sure. So
Right.
look for it.
Let's have them take a look and see, Right.
You have to see the numbers.
Yes, right, exactly. And that's the problem. We can't see their numbers. Right. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So anything else? Any other questions for Susan? Anything else you want to say there, Susan?
I just want to thank Susan for doing all this. That's tremendous. Thank you, Susan.
Yes.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
mostly Kelly. I mean, Kelly is bearing the brunt of a lot of this work. So just by us going to her, she stepped forward and, said, this is what I can do, this, and this, and things that we hadn't even thought of. So, kudos to them for reaching out and
Well,
like
to
even
you
putting it on a
too.
ballot.
She gets a paycheck. You don't.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I have a comment or a question about the boards. If people
So
don't,
which board? I'm sorry.
the ones, the electric signs,
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you.
if it says need tax help and people don't care if they file their taxes because they don't owe any, are they going to call?
Oh, good point. Good point. Because it doesn't say, oh, do you know about circuit breaker or,
Right. And we're very limited in terms of the number of words.
It's a good
So
point.
I was just wondering if there's something very short that we could put on there that would make it like,
Heidi, you're the genius with words. Do you have a suggestion for what to put up there?
Money.
Yeah,
Always.
my thought would be, in the presentation I did at COA, I pretty much, right in the middle, I just packed it with numbers in terms of how much money they could get back. Something like, have you received your $2,590 yet? Okay.
Oh.
If not, call.
Wow.
It might get people to call at least, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Maybe the first sign could say 65 plus question mark, and then the second one,
Would begin with, did you know? Did you know you could get 25?
Can't put that on the flashing sign.
there's just not enough characters is the problem. So it's like,
Yeah.
Right.
you almost want to be like free money for seniors.
But seniors, have you taken a circuit break or circuit break seniors or something? I don't know.
Something. I think we've got to
Do
get.
you know how to get $2,590? We do.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
We can help you get $2,590 on 2 screens.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's a really good point, Heidi, that I hadn't thought of, because like maybe it's just a reminder to do your taxes and they're not thinking like, okay, that this is targeting seniors, or that, this is
Who
for the
do
circuit
their
breaker.
taxes and I don't.
It's a very good point. So why don't we work on that? I'll try to get with Kelly, maybe after Kate comes back, and just try to see what we can
Okay,
do.
Susan,
to
thank you.
modify it.
Yeah, if you'll take that action, I'm
Yeah,
to work
sure.
on wording there.
Can I throw something in?
Sure. Hang on one second, Deborah. Let me crank up the volume for you. Hold on one second, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, you are now normal person volume. Go ahead.
Okay. Is there some way of getting something that is, when they see it, they don't think of real estate tax? Because our office is getting hit with people coming in. And then our office is sending them down to the senior center. So when they're seeing the information, they're assuming it's real estate.
Oh.
So so that lighted sign is actually prompting people to come to the assessor's office.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a sign. I don't know if it's a letter that went into the paper. But I do know that there have been people coming in.
Oh.
So
Well, in some ways, that's good news. Okay.
well, once the office staff sees it and knows what they're talking about, then that's when they send me down to the senior center.
Mm-hmm.
So just an FYI.
So maybe I can put the same flyer that went to the post office. We could have that laid out right in front of the assessor's office as a flyer there as well, so that they could just point to that and say, this is how you can get a tax break.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just a thought, Deborah, what if we
Yeah.
put up a little, 8.5 by 11, question, a little notice on the outdoor doors and even some of the indoor doors at town hall that said something like, "Hear about taxes on sign, ? Contact LCC and Kelly Dolan."
You'd have to talk to Kate. You'd have to talk to Kate. I
Sure,
don't know what can be put there and what can't.
Sure. Okay. And all right. Susan, would you put that on your list to talk to Kelly about that and indicate that people are coming to the assessor's office?
Sure.
Well, what would happen if on that sign you said, file mass tax this year, get $2,590?
Or just file mass
first
state
of all,
tax.
it says mass tax, and then the money is there. I'm just trying to be as blunt as possible that, and I think Kevin's thing is great. It's not real estate tax; it's mass tax.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heidi. And it's we got to get into 6,500 too.
Right.
I guess most people under 65 file a mass tax. I guess I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you, Heidi.
It's got to be. I mean, you got to be definitive. What's my benefit? What do I have to do? What's my benefit? How much time? That was my business for 30 some odd years.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks, Heidi, for bringing that up. I think you spawned some good discussion.
But I texted Susan, here's the shortest I can get it. MA tax break for 65 plus, call LLC.
That works.
Okay. Go for it.
What's the telephone number?
They already have that.
Yeah, I think
We don't have
room.
That's already on the sign.
Dick.
Yeah.
LLC. I mean, call LLC. How many people know? And
Yeah, they can go on the website and look it up. I hear you.
Yeah.
Susan, if you could forward these thoughts to Kelly and let Kelly sort out what works.
I will. I wanted Heidi to get credit for having said it, so I wanted her to say it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we appreciate it, Heidi.
Yeah.
And this is just an
start the
example.
board out. Heidi says.
I love it. Great. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
Th-
that
th-
was
this is-
that. Nothing else on my end then. We'll go on to the
Okay.
next
Okay.
working
Yeah,
report or
moving
whatever.
right along. I just want to make a comment that this is a good example of how one person making a comment or proposing something leads to synergy among the group to improve on the idea and that kind of thing. So if you see something that's troubling you or you think can be done better, by all means, bring it up because, your initial wording may not be perfect, but as you see, the group can help. Okay. Even a great writer. Okay. All right. Let me see. Other methods to get this out. Susan already talked about the COA meeting that we participated in. The item article went out. I thought it was very factual and very clear. All right. I put in a question here about should we do a Facebook post? Facebook posts are double or triple-edged swords. Does anyone feel it would be a good thing for us to do?
Yes.
Yes, Dick Trussell does. You think we
Yeah.
should do Facebook?
What you mean on the two? I guess there's two Lancaster
Right.
things. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And if
I
we were to,
I know it's the same people over and over and over, but I think there's a bunch of people who don't comment or read that stuff.
so
Yeah,
I'm
I think the older that somebody is, I mean, maybe it's a generalization, but if they don't even have a computer and they don't
Right.
even have, they're not going to necessarily. Now, maybe maybe their children have given them an iPad so that they could look at pictures, and they might have a Facebook account. But I think the target audience, it's kind of tough. Like the people that I see on Facebook aren't necessarily over 65 seniors, in
Well,
terms
but
of
but
target.
they may have parents who are over 65 that they will
True.
alert to.
Okay.
They may not be in Lancaster, or they may be in Lancaster, but
Yeah.
right. And one of the
I
things,
mean, what can it hurt?
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh,
right.
Okay.
I'm sorry I said that. Facebook can hurt a lot. I'm sorry.
I think honestly, you could just take the slide that we did from the presentation about like friends and family. You know anybody who has this, here's what benefit they can get. Make sure they go file their taxes so they get a check.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
did
we
a
can try
three
something
I
like
did
that.
a 3-slide presentation. I don't know if I sent it to you at COA, which essentially was I forget, I'm trying to remember what the first slide was. The second slide was the dollars, and the third slide was the what to do, the call to action slide. Exactly, Heidi. If people think it's worthwhile, I will post it with, comments in terms of please call the LCC number, and the number is listed right in the slide. Um, I will do that. I may even try to shorten it up from what I presented at COA and get down to just the numbers.
Yeah,
And
it
take
can't be
out
too
that,
busy.
yeah,
Can't be
that's
too busy or people just fly right by it. But yeah,
okay.
let's work together and we'll try to get something posted. So
Right, okay. All right,
All right.
so the sense here is that people are suggesting we should do a Facebook post in the two Lancaster MA Facebook areas. Are
Yes,
there
and
any
people might
objections?
even share it, they might just be
Yes.
like, this is good information. I'm going to share that.
Okay, so put that down, Heidi, as an action item that I have to work with Susan on wording that and getting that out. Anything else that strikes you in terms of ways we can get the word out? I'm let's put it this way. 99.999% of me is focused on Lancaster. 1/10,000th of a percent is focused on if we can get it out to some other towns, like through the item article, and some other people become aware of it and do apply, that's great. I have no thoughts about how to track that or do anything there, but I thought that would be a reason why the item might pick it up and do it. As you
When
saw,
does the next tax bill go out? I know when it's due. It's February, March, April, May. It's due May 1.
May 1st.
So
We'll
it would
get
go
it
out.
April
Okay, hang
It
on.
would
1.
go out April
Debbie's
1st.
Debbie's responding. Debbie, can you respond to that?
The tax bills by law have to go out 30 days prior, so they have to be in the mail by April 1st.
All right, so maybe we can get something in there.
Yeah, I think we should absolutely get something in there.
Yeah, but if it goes out then April 1st, it's 2 weeks before
I know,
they,
but you think it's too late?
yes.
I mean, I think we can still do it. Like, it
Yeah.
is late, but it's not too late. It's not after.
Let's put it
And
this
you
way.
know-
They may miss 1 year, but they would still get 3. Okay?
Well, can I say something?
Go ahead, Debbie.
Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 3A. You have to be very careful in what you put with the tax bill. That's number one. Number two, you have to get the Board of Selectmen to approve anything to go in with the tax bill. Number three is there is a vendor that prints all the tax bills. They stuff the envelopes and they mail them out. The other part of the law states that whatever you add to that tax bill cannot increase the stampage price.
Okay.
And the vendor will have to be paid for printing whatever you're doing and stuffing. The collector already has a contract with them, so I don't know how you get around this and who would pay for it.
Debbie,
Didn't we do it last year, Debbie?
No, we did not.
There was some proposal to put something in, not from this, from something else.
It was the CPA. When the CPA was voted, they wanted to put something in. And I think it ended up, but they had plenty of time to do it. What you're saying in 2 weeks, you want flyers put in with the tax bills. I can't see this happening.
I'm sorry. The bill goes out April 1st, right? Is mailed.
Correct.
So we have like 6 weeks.
All right. What if the vendor says they don't have the staff to do it?
Yeah, right. Clearly, that's an issue. And
what if the vendor comes back with a price, which she's already got a contract with them? So this is going to be added. Who's paying for it?
yeah, if it became an issue of just a few dollars to pay for that, given some reasonable price, Debbie, I would propose that we, as tax fairness or Kelly, one of the two, work to find a way to come up with the money for that. All right.
All right.
I know that the Friends of Seniors added an ask request with the census. So that's a scenario where we had to pay that vendor when they sent out that to include it. And it was something like $391, I think is what it cost to include an additional piece of paper
Big money.
in with that census filing and dog licensing. So, that was great for January, but that only comes once a year. So, even if we don't decide to go with this, we might decide to do it with the census, because that would go out January 1st and would be kind of good timing for next year. So that's just an idea.
Yeah. Susan, clearly there are several logistics. Debbie's brought up some of them and constraints here that we don't all understand here. Could you put it on a list to ask Kelly? And Debbie, who should she talk to? Should she talk to Bobby Joe?
No. It's the collector treasurer,
Okay.
Mrs. Sands, but she's not here. She's on vacation.
Okay. Well, all right. When she returns. Okay. See if that's feasible and what the cost might be. All right. Okay.
Well, I wouldn't do an 8.5 by 11. I'd do an 8.5 by 3.5. 1/3 of it,
Okay.
because you got a weight problem.
Yeah, well, yeah, let's not try to solve the logistics here. Let's have, Susan talk with Kelly and let her and Mrs. Sands work it out.
I
Okay.
love that idea of Susan's with the census, though, that we all have to do that. And you got
Okay.
to register your dog and get your taxes done.
All right. Okay, we're now going to close, unless there is an issue I've missed here, we're now going to close off all discussion about what we've been doing about SME and wrapping up the discussions that Susan's having with Kelly, and Kelly's doing a great job, and Susan and Kelly are working together very well with Nikki. Just great, okay? We're going to wrap that up unless there's something that's critical that I missed that people want to bring up. All right, hearing none, I'm moving on then. We're going to start shifting gears now. One of the things we talked about at the select board meeting was we were going to look at the whole question of tax deferral, which we clearly did not have time to do up to now. All right. So to start that discussion off, I had emailed some questions to Deborah, who I understand because Deborah, I bumped into Bobby Joe trying to get into the building tonight. Like all of us were trying to get in there. And she indicates you two had a chat today. And Deborah, can you give us, kind of the information you've been able to find on these questions then?
Okay, did everybody get a copy of the questions?
No, I don't think so. I think I only sent it to you. Okay. And I felt we would cover it in the meeting. So you might just start with what was the question and then your answer would be helpful.
Okay, all right. So the first question off was, if a senior does apply and is eligible and gets approved, who does the approval? Assessor's office? That's yes. How do the logistics work? I'm not sure what you're asking, but the applications come in, the principal assessor and the staff goes through it to make sure that they qualify. The application comes to the board at one of their meetings and the board approves it. The taxpayer is notified they've been approved. Then we go ahead and we start the lien process.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? The what process?
We start the lien process.
Thank you.
The taxpayer comes in, once the lien has been done up by our office, they come in and they sign it. They pay the fee for the recording. It goes into the registry of deeds and it gets recorded. I understand this was in the question. I understand we have done one in the past, but not any in the last 2 years. That is a little not true. And the reason why is we did one 3 years ago. They got approved. Second year, they didn't get approved. Third year, they didn't get approved. Now, whether they apply this year, that's up to them. If they get approved this year, they'll go through the same process. But the lien is already done.
Mm-hmm.
Second question. In the first year, the assessor's office works with legal counsel to draft getting signed by the owner. We do not use legal counsel. We do the lien in our office. All the paperwork we download from DOR. They've already got all that done.
I'm
so that's
sorry.
what we use.
Can you repeat that, Deborah? Where do you download this from?
Department of Revenue.
Got it. Okay.
Third question. How does the town get its money for the first year tax? As I stated, this is a deferral. It's no different than someone that does not pay their taxes. It goes into tax title and it sits there. And if you go into tax title from non-payment, the collector starts tax taking. When you do a deferral, it sits there. And it stays until it's paid. Now, it could be if the person sells the property, it could be at their death, or they may come in and say, look, I don't like having this lien. I don't want to have the deferral. I want to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
They go to the collector's office. Collector will calculate the tax or the interest, I'm sorry, and then put it together, and that person would pay it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the lien would come off.
Okay.
So let's see.
Can I just ask a clarification question there, Deborah? So if it's one person that goes into this, I'm sorry, was it
Tax
tax
deferral.
tax deferral? Okay. And sits there and the town doesn't do anything and in effect doesn't get the money for taxes from that year for that house.
Yep.
What would the town do if, let's say, we had several hundred of these tax deferrals that people applied for, and the town didn't make the collection on several hundreds of these taxes? Would the town at some point borrow money against this, or what would the town do?
No. The town is not a bank. The town can't go out and borrow money. Not on something like this.
We can't. Okay.
No. They would just stay in that tax title deferral, and they would just sit there. But I mean, you're talking quite a lot of them.
Right. And I'm just wondering what happens there if it was to be quite a lot. Okay. All right. Understand. Keep going.
Okay. I just lost my place. Sorry.
We are in 1.2, I think, in the second year, if they roll it over.
All right. And then you had mentioned another way we could get our money. There is no other way.
We can't, the town can't borrow money against this collectible, if you will.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. Let's see. The next question. If we get up to the 50% of the proportioned ownership held by the owner, then they can't add any new deferral tax. Whatever they have deferred in the past can continue to be deferred. Yes. So if they get to the max and they can't add any more to it, it can stay in that deferral.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sits there till it gets paid with the 8% interest. Okay, so now the next question. Is it possible that before the owner dies, there could be a case where the owner doesn't do something necessary to keep the deferral active? And would the town seize the house in that case? The deferral stays active, as I said, as long as it's not paid. It would have to be the owner or the kids after the death of that person, or if they go to sell it. And understand that we will get our money. And no,
I'm chuckling with you. Go ahead.
the reason is that anytime you sell a property, they do a title search.
Sure.
This lien is going to come up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And say, for example, and I've seen it happen, they don't pick it up. They do a municipal lien certificate before closing. That municipal lien's done by the collector's office. There is a flag on that account.
Mm-hmm.
On the municipal liens, it will state that this property has back taxes. It's in deferral. So if it does get caught through the registry and their inspection, it's going to get caught there. If for some strange reason it didn't, and it got closed on, and a new person buys it, they're stuck with the bill.
Ooh.
So I just wanted to let you guys know
Okay.
that. But at some point, it's going to get caught. So the town will get it with 8%. So which one are we on now?
We are now on 4.
Okay. There appear to me to be 2 parts of the 41A fact sheet that I think would need to change to make this practical here in Lancaster. So are you asking me a question or are you stating a fact? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm stating it, let's put it this way, I'm stating my observation on the data that was there and asking for you to provide any additional clarity or, do you think what I'm proposing there makes sense? Or have I misinterpreted it?
What I've come up with, the only thing I can think you're asking is if the town voted, they could take and increase the limit for seniors who is not head of household. They could increase the asset limit, but that's it. They could, and also we could change the interest.
Right, we could change the interest, and couldn't we change the income?
I'm just saying assets. Gross receipt limits, 20, we could change that.
Yes, right.
And we could use a circuit breaker amounts as long as it's a senior who is not head of household. And we can go by the circuit breaker.
Help me understand the point you made about it's a senior who's not head of household. I didn't quite understand that.
Well, that's what's in the law. It's not clear. It just basically says you can increase the limit for senior who is not head of household. Now, this that I'm reading is only in the course 101. If you go into the actual law, hold on. Sorry, I have so many papers here. I know I saw it, but it had to do with the circuit breaker income limits. So basically, income limits from the circuit breaker state income tax credit are adjusted annually.
Yes.
So you can use those amounts, but it states that you have to be a single and a non-senior and not head of household. That's the way they state it. So I'm assuming what it's saying is if you go to the circuit breaker amounts, isn't the first one a senior but not head of household? That was like 70,000. I just thrown that out there. I don't remember.
There was in the circuit breaker, and Dick, you're probably the one who's most on top of it. There are 3 levels.
Yeah,
That's correct. The
Go ahead.
single is head of household, and there's filing jointly. You're not allowed to do it if you're filing separately, married and filing separately. However,
Okay.
one of the ones could, but you can't both take it. So those are three breakdowns that I'm aware of.
yeah, I can look into that one a little bit more.
I don't understand the head of household thing not being
Yeah.
valid.
Well, the
I'm not questioning it. I just don't understand why.
No, I get that.
Right. Yeah, Debbie, if you could look into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have it right in front of me.
Oh, they're good.
The seniors, and it says here, you or your spouse, if married filing jointly, must be 65, blah, blah, blah. Then it says also you must file a single married filing jointly. It says, or head of household to qualify for this credit.
Right, right.
So you could be head of household.
According to the circuit breaker, you can be.
Right.
Maybe according to the tax
Tax
that you're
deferral.
talking about, you can't. I don't know.
Deferral. Okay. Yeah.
Right. You can't.
That's interesting. Be interesting to hear what you can find about that, Debbie. That's interesting. Okay.
I'll look a little bit more into it. So, and then what was the last one?
The last one was, just a general question, if there are any other thoughts or suggestions you might have about this. Is this something that could be broadly applicable to people in Lancaster, or is it, a narrow usage program?
And I have a question for when we're done too.
Sure, okay.
I would probably say that it's a narrow, and the reason why I say it is it's that hinge of a lien. People do not want to see that on their property. And like I said, the generation coming up now might not care.
Right.
The
right.
generation I used to work with that would come in would just not, no matter if they were poor, it didn't matter. The fact that a lien was put on their property stopped them.
And totally understand your point, Deborah. People have an emotional reaction to putting a lien on their property. Completely understand.
Yep.
Completely understand. Okay. Dick, you had a question now?
Yes, for Deborah.
Yep.
I'll give you the circumstance. I was the whoever takes care of the will for my cousin in Burlington, Mass. And I went to pay his tax bill and thought it was $3,700. It turned out it was $37,000 because he had age and health problems. Is there anything, or was that simply the town not taking his property? He hadn't paid his taxes for 5 to 6 years. Is there anything for age and health that protects a person from losing their home as a state law?
No, there is no state law.
Okay, so that probably was Burlington doing him a favor, I guess, huh?
Well, it might have been that the collector's office just was so backlogged that they just put that one on the burner.
Well, no, he was doing this as a practice because I had to pay over $11,000 for his electric bill too, because they couldn't shut him off because he was over 85.
Right.
So I wondered if there were that kind of limitation in state taxes, and I guess not, huh?
No. It probably was that they probably had a backlog and she was putting more ahead than his. And I know personally, at least in our thoughts, if we know the person, I know that our collector used to, if they knew the person and they knew the family, our collector would either call or send a note
Mhm.
to the family, just to say, oh, by the way, because these seniors, as they get older, they forget,
Right, right.
you know? I
I
mean,
gotta learn to do that.
yeah,
Yes,
I mean, it could have been that they knew the situation and they were just hoping at some point
Yeah,
some family
yeah.
would notice.
Right. Well, he
no,
was
there is
very
no-
ill, so, and in the hospital, so for a long time, so I'm sure that was a consideration.
yeah,
Yeah, it could have been.
So,
It could have been.
thank you, Deb. I just wondered if there were any credence to that.
yeah.
Yeah, no. So,
Okay, any other questions for Deborah here?
I guess I'm trying to understand if we think if the attitude towards this is changing. I guess I have no idea what the qualifications are. So how many people might be able to get this or benefit from this if they are willing to do so?
well, the thing is, the income is so low. I think it's 20,000 right now.
Right, current state law is that way, yes.
Yep. So realistically, how many people
Right.
are in that bracket right now?
Yeah, your taxes are 45 in Lancaster are 45% of that number. You can't live in Lancaster on that number.
And we do have people that do live that way.
Incredible.
You
I don't
know?
know how they do it. Okay.
I know.
Right. And Heidi, just to be clear, we, the town meeting can vote to change those numbers. All right. And the thought was we could tie them to the circuit breaker, circuit breaker table limits so that they would index based on inflation, et cetera, so they could be more practical in terms of applying for it. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense because 20,000 seems well
Yes.
impossible.
Well, look at your 41C. Look at the requirements for 41C. That's why we don't have very many people on that one, because the income and assets are so restricted.
What's 41C again, Deborah? I've forgotten.
That's for a senior over 65. And that's $1,000 off.
Also,
Okay.
you have to disclose more family history than a lot of people want to disclose. Is that also the case, Debbie?
I'm sorry, I missed it, Dick.
I I think there's a lot of personal information that goes on those sheets too, isn't there? That people wish not to disclose, such as investment income and the like. I know we don't want to give a break to millionaires, but
the requirements are no different from the 41A to a senior 41C. If it's income asset base or just income, they have to show verification. So that means their income tax, if they have retirement, if they have bank statements, checking account, all that paperwork's got to be proven.
what about stocks and bonds? What about stocks and bonds?
Yes, you have to, that's added in to income.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people draw the line, I think.
Yeah, they don't like it, but we have to verify.
I'm not opposed because I don't want to give a tax break to someone so they can give a bigger dowry to their children when they die. I mean, that's not the point of taxes.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other questions for Deborah here? Well, Deborah, I thank you for doing this research and for explaining it to us.
Well, what I was going to say is when I do find that information, why don't I send it to you and you can span it out to everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
That'll be just fine. So Heidi, put that down as a note, the action item that Deborah has taken relative to, and this was the issue about couldn't be, what was it? Was it head of household? What was the specific item you
It
couldn't be?
has to do with seniors who is not head of household under the circuit breaker state income tax code.
Mm-hmm. Right, okay. Okay. All right.
Okay.
With that, thank you very much, Deborah.
Yep.
Let me do now one of two things. It's now 8:15. I don't want to go a whole lot longer. I thought I might cover just one brief item to give you a perspective on something, which is part of what caused me to ask these questions of Deborah. The tax deferral may not be a valuable program that we can expand and would help a lot of folks in Lancaster, but it may be, looking at this information I'm about to share with you, that there may be other approaches that could, and I'll talk about that in just a minute, all right? Let me share with you some work I did in the background relative to the appreciation on a home in Lancaster and what happens to a house just sitting in Lancaster over time. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see if we can make this work here. Here we go. Are you seeing a set of bar graphs here in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me do one thing here to tell you briefly what I did, and then I'm going to come back to these bar graphs. One of the things I did was I sat down and said to myself, because people talk about people in Lancaster being, quote, house poor. They have, money tied up in the house, but they don't have cash, that type of thing. And my question was, so with tax deferral, is there some way that people could in some way get that cash out of the house? One of the things they could consider doing, if tax deferral is not a great approach, would be what's typically called a reverse mortgage approach, in which you can take cash out of your house. Let me talk about what I did here. What I did was I looked at what's been the appreciation on homes in Lancaster in the last 10 years. And what I found was that the homes in Lancaster from 2015 through 2024 had in general gone up 81% in terms of value. That's a lot. Okay? In terms
Clearly,
of,
I messed up.
excuse me?
Clearly, I messed up.
Because
My house did not go up 81% in terms of value.
I can't comment on specific instances, but wow, yeah. We can talk offline, Heidi. I don't know specific cases, okay?
Yeah,
What
no,
I-
it's sort of a joke.
Okay,
But I've been here for 10 years, so it's pretty,
okay.
yep.
What I did was I said, well, what if we project going forward? And I said, well, let's be conservative. Let's say that houses only go up 70% of what they did in the last 10 years. All right. And let's assume that taxes go up 20% more than, I went and looked up taxes for the last 5 years and how much those had gone up. And in general, I looked at those going up, in effect, 4.61% here, as you can see in this little box. And then I said, particularly because I was doing this when we were looking at the SME stuff. I said, what if a person came in 10 years ago, bought a house in 2015 at the average price back then? What would that be worth nowadays in 2025, 1 year from now? And what will it be worth in terms of years going forward? And what I did was I put that into a set of graphs. I will talk to you about them, and I will talk to you about some of the limitations of these graphs, but it just gives you an idea of what might be available to a senior in terms of an asset they could make use of to get themselves some more cash to help deal with their expenses. So this is the case where we're just talking about the house and what's it look like, okay, over the current last 10 years and then 20 years into the future. In 2015, they bought this house at the average price back then, and they took out an 80% mortgage. All right, so they had about 58,000 in equity and about almost 200,000 in terms of a mortgage. In 10 years, they've increased their equity by about 50,000 from what they paid in. They still have a good sized mortgage, but the house itself is appreciated just from being in Lancaster to that point where the house is worth an additional $236,000. They didn't have to pay for any of this, but the house has an asset value now much more than it was 10 years prior. If you carry that same thinking forward, you see how the asset value has gone up and the Lancaster equity, just from the house being in Lancaster, not paying off mortgage or anything else, goes up to 536,000, and then in 20 years up to a million and 5,000 for a total equity of about $1.3 million in the house after they paid off their mortgage. This is a tremendous amount of money that if the senior can access somehow, would be of great value to them because they can use it to pay off taxes, they can use it to pay off medical expenses, etc., these kinds of things. So this got me thinking about tax deferral, had some of my questions to Deborah here. I then looked at the whole issue with the tax deferral, which is the second bar chart here. I said, what if they, starting in 2025, they defer the taxes on the house and they defer interest on all of those collected taxes. In effect, they stop paying $9,000 a year roughly for taxes, and they can use it for other things in their life, and just defer the taxes. Doing that will clearly reduce the amount of equity they have as you go forward. You see that after a while, rather than 536,000 as they had before, because they have to, in effect, take the interest and the deferred taxes out of this, it's only worth 371,000. And 20 years from now, rather than being worth $1.5 million, that's only 475,000. Well, that's still a lot of money, and they could defer all taxes for 20 years. Okay. And still have a lot of money in equity left in the house. That's a great message for seniors. And they could, if tax deferral is not a great option, and I'm hearing what Deborah is saying, maybe they could consider a reverse mortgage, which does have some restrictions in terms of the downside and negative consequences. Now, a quick comment I will make here is that in a brief discussion with Dick asked me to look at and discount all of these numbers that are 10 and 20 years out, discount them for the inflation rate. Because 475,000 20 years from now is not what we think about it being worth today. I just didn't have time to do all that in a good way. But I wanted to share with you this idea that our seniors are sitting on a large asset. And if we could find some way we can suggest to them that they review with their lawyers and tax, representatives, tax advisors, might make sense for them and could allow them to, have another source of income to pay some of their bills, particular increasing medical bills, taxes, et cetera, all these kinds of things. So I just wanted to share that idea with you.
There is one other thing we didn't discuss, Roy. I don't know if it's important or not.
Go ahead.
But a $200,000 mortgage doesn't cost you $200,000 over 30 years.
Yes,
it costs you $450,000 or more.
You're absolutely correct. Yep.
However, at the end, you still have the same value house. You just don't have as much equity in it as you thought you did. So the point is, you'd still have as much money to spend, but you'd have less money to pass on to your children.
True. True. Okay.
I don't know if it matters, but I mean, a $200,000 mortgage costs you
You're
a lot
absolutely
more than $200,000 by the time you're done.
right. You're absolutely correct, Dick. And I didn't account for that. I just looked at the equity that the customer is left with because
Right.
paying
And
a
that's
30-year
good.
mortgage is typical, and we all do that.
I think what this shows is that, as opposed to being house poor, people are house rich and don't know it.
Right.
And most people, I'll leave Heidi out. She doesn't want to be included, but most people have more equity in their home than they think. However, if they were to sell it and move, they'd have to buy something of the same higher price. So
Right. Right.
Yeah.
what you're saying is, do not sell, do not move. Just
Right.
take. I think I have a friend, Tony, who took a home equity loan
Mhm.
and took it and arranged it so that he had enough money for 5 years and the payments. Okay, so he netted out, and he was perfectly happy. And his kids, he had 9 kids, they weren't going to get a lot anyhow. But the point is, there's other ways to arrange this financially than to
Yeah.
have to sell.
Right. So yeah, Dick, I think you're right. It may be that what we do out of this is we share this data and we communicate with seniors and say, there's another asset you have that you could use to help cover some of your expenses, be they taxes, be they increased medical expenses, that kind of thing. And that is the equity in your home. Tax deferral might be one approach, may not be broadly applicable. Okay. A reverse mortgage might be another approach, that type of thing. But understand you have this asset capability. Use it to help you, improve your life and live your life in place. Because as Dick says, moving is costly. And as Sheila says, it's complicated. I don't even want to think about it. Right, Sheila?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So we've covered, 2/3 of what I wanted to cover tonight. I'm not going to get started. We're not going to get started on the beginning of the discussions on tax fairness. I would ask that you look at the documents I sent you about reading materials. That will give you some thinking about this. The first two questions I'm going to ask next time we're together are, what do you think about tax fairness? What comes to your mind? All right, point one. And point two, when you talk to your neighbors, what do they say is their top of mind when they think about tax fairness in Lancaster? All right, we'll
There's
start
one
there.
thing, another thing, Roy, and I think, if I may, it has to do with Susan. This is great. How do we get this? We better keep talking about how do we get our information out,
Uh-huh.
because we just showed the people that they've got a lot of money and possible money in a reverse mortgage on their home or home equity loan. How do we tell them that? I think most people are sitting there saying, I don't have the money in the bank.
Right.
And we need to expand their thinking. I don't know how. But
I think Kelly would be more than happy to.
an information system.
Yeah. I think Kelly would be more than happy to put together, if we wanted to make a presentation, that we could invite people that were thinking about it, to explain this to them. Because it's really not an easy slide. Like, you really have to, it takes a whole seminar, to present this, and take all those things into consideration. So that would be my suggestion, that Kelly's more than happy to put on, an event. It's just that, how do you communicate with the people that are old enough that don't have computers and don't have an email and don't,
Right.
you got to reach those people,
Right. But
That's
Susan,
difficult.
would you just add to your list, just say general communications of tax fairness committee findings to seniors and all of our taxpayers. And I'm not sure yet what to do with it, but I think that's the point that Dick is bringing up. We need to figure out a communication program. Okay?
I mean, it's great that we all know it, but we're not the ones, we're not the target group.
True, right.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. With that, is there anything else we need to cover tonight? Our next meeting is on the 6th. It should be on your calendars. I will double check on this. So an action item for me, Heidi, is to double check on the room on Nashaway and Zoom. I appreciate what everybody did tonight to make do under these circumstances. I feel like we're a little bit better able to communicate when most of us are in one location. Dick can share his great ideas from anywhere, I find. Okay?
That's
All right. With that, can
I
we
make
have a motion to adjourn the meeting then?
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Sheila. Any discussion? If not, Heidi, can you call the roll for the vote on to adjourn?
Sure. Roy,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
Sheila,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Debbie.
Yeah.
I will also vote yes.
Okay, so it's unanimous then. We are adjourned.